Thank you for joining us on Africa 24. Today, we have the great honor of welcoming His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Motola, Minister of Energy of the Republic of Malawi. Join me as we delve into insightful discussions on the government's initiative in developing this sector. Mr. Minister, it's a delight having you on Africa 24.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity and exposure that I should come here and join you, Africa 24, in order to highlight the initiatives of His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Macarthur Chakwera's administration since he took power in 2020. I'll begin by saying that what I've learned here in Morocco is about the passion and vision of the King Muhammad VI. Similarly to my president, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Macarthur Chakwera, when he took over the administration in 2020, he has a plan for the energy sector. One of the plans is just to reach 1,000 megawatts of our energy in the grid. However, this can not only achieved, but with a lot of energy mix programs. One of it is that our legislation is very, very good and conducive for the investment in the energy sector. By opening up to the independent power producers, then as Africa and Malawi in particular, that it is a landlocked country. In the east is bordering with Mozambique, and in the west is bordering Zambia, and in the north it's bordering Tanzania. When you look at the investment in the energy sector, let's talk about the generation part, which most of the administration, the past administrations, didn't put much emphasis and focus in the generation. Hence, Malawi was lagging behind in terms of fulfilling the sustainable goal number 7. Sustainable goal number 7 says about affordability, accessibility, sustainability of power. But this can only be achieved when we have enough power. So we start with the generation, which I have said that my president, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Macarthur Chakwera, made an emphasis that we should add more power to our national grid. Currently, we are at 550 megawatts. And he challenges that come 2025, we should be at least have reached 1,000 megawatts. And these initiatives can be achieved with the energy mix, as I've said, without depending on one system of energy. Malawi depends on hydropower. As I've said, that the natural resources which God gave Africa, and Malawi in particular, because whatever is in Tanzania is also in Malawi. Whatever in Zambia and Mozambique, it is also in Malawi. For example, the geothermal. We are moving towards developing the geothermal power plants, but also wind farms, because Malawi has got also abundant resources of wind. And we come into solar, which is also a God-given natural resource to Africa, because the abundant sun rays in Africa is very, very, very important, and which is also an opportunity by going into these renewable energies. However, what we need to do is to have the vision and visionary leaders like what I've seen here in Morocco, but also with my president in Malawi.
In spite of this initiative, Malawi is still experiencing problems in terms of um, energy access, especially due to the consequences of climate changes. So, what are some measures being taken to resolve this problem?
As I've said, that Malawi depends a lot on hydro. And indeed, due to the natural disasters and the climate change, it has really, really affected the energy sector. For example, in 2022, we lost 130 megawatts due to Cyclone Ana, where one of the power plants, the dike, was washed away. But also, we had just decommissioned the 78 megawatts on diesel engines because it was taking a lot of money, but also we would want to go green. So just imagine, with that, we don't need to depend only on one source of energy. Hence, we have embarked on solar and wind, geothermal. But also, as I've said earlier on, that Malawi is land-linked. And Malawi falls under the Southern Africa Power Pool. We were the member, but it took the initiative of His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Makathi Chakwera with his counterpart, President Nyusi of Mozambique, to collaborate. And that's what we are talking about, regional integration, so that Malawi can be connected with Mozambique, the one we call it MoMA. And very soon, come next year, early January or February, we'll be connected to Mozambique. And then another interconnector is between Zambia and Malawi. It is only 78 kilometers between Malawi and Chipata. And we can tap also that what we call ZAMA, Zambia Malawi Interconnector. Then we have signed also an agreement between Malawi and Tanzania, what we call TAMA. So Tanzania and Malawi will be connected. But also there are other projects which we are doing as a regional projects. The Songwe River within the boundaries. With Mozambique, also we are doing the Zoa Falls hydropower plant. And this side, we are also would want to be tapping this power so that Africa, with those countries which are states which got access in electricity, they can sell to the other nations. For example, we are in the Southern Power Pool. We can tap that power if we have access and sell it to Tanzania, Tanzania, which is closer to DRC Congo. And DRC Congo is just closer to Congo Brazzaville. So that is the entry point from Southern Africa, power pool, to Eastern Africa through Tanzania. And then Tanzania sells it to DRC, which is almost in the southern part of Africa, closer to Congo Brazzaville. And then it goes to West Africa, Senegal, Gambia, all this. And then it comes up to Morocco. And here I've learned at Tanja that this is only a gateway to Spain. So Morocco is tapping power from Spain and vice versa. These are the things which we should do, Africa. Africa should change the narrative. We need to have more power to invest in the energy sector so that we can have industries. I've learned what is happening here. It pains me a lot that Africa has got abundance of resources. For example, cocoa. But it is being exported raw material into Europe, and then they manufacture chocolate. And that chocolate comes back to Africa. You and me, my brother, my sister, my uncle cannot afford to eat that chocolate. Why? Because we don't have power to have the industries which can manufacture those companies. So the industries can be in Africa. For example, here they're assembling, they are making cars here, finished products which are going to the European markets because they have invested a lot in the energy sector. We need to do more in the generation. then we can have the access to electricity. By the way, the sustainable goal number 7, it says by 2030, access to electricity should be 100%. Yes, it's an ambitious agenda, but can only achieved when countries share the resources which are within the member states. For example, in Malawi, we have initiative of rural electrification. This is a program, but rural electrification only depending on national grid. There are certain areas where you can not reach, which is very, very difficult. But also the definition of electrifying a rural center, so that the administration of His Excellency Dr. Rasas Makathe Chakwera, it has gone flat out in having off-grid solutions, because these off-grid solutions, it can reach to the rural masses, and then we are going to minimize the immigration of rural people into urban cities, which is happening today. But now there are positive indicators since the administration of His Excellency Dr. Rasas Makathe Chakwera came into place, because of adding more power from different sources.
You talked about Morocco building cars in its country, and we also take note that Morocco has a 100% rate of access to electricity with more than 50% from green sources. So how do you intend to take advantage of the Moroccan experience to activate the levers of energy production in your country, Malawi?
First is that they added, or the focus which they made, it is in generation, because we need to match the demand and the supply. So that's where most of us, we are missing, is in Africa states. We only focus on supply, but the demand is very, very high. So what we need is that we need to have these interconnectors, whether it's West African Power Pool, East African Power Pool, North African Power Pool, and Southern Africa Power Pool. Once the states have got access, then they can share those the energy to other member states, but with a focus of targeting the rural masses. Because what is happening is that we are focusing, as African states, we are only focusing in the urban cities and leaving the rural masses. So when you look at the population, the biggest population is, the highest population is in the rural areas. For that, our target should be that with the off-grid solutions, but with other energy mix, so that we can reach the target of giving access of electricity. I will give an example. The rural hospitals, if we don't give them power, we'll end up not having surgeries. Women, expectant women, will be traveling long distances. But also teachers. None of the teachers would want to stay in the rural area where he can't charge, or she can't charge his phone. He can't use the laptop. Doctors are online today. So these are the things that we need first to give the priority in the energy sector. By also changing our curriculum. The curriculum which is in Africa, when you look at these countries, like Morocco, 40 years ago, maybe I'm also going very far. They were like other African countries. China, India, 40 years ago, they were same at par with the African countries. But because they invested a lot in education, science, innovations, this is the time when Africa should change the narrative. I would like to quote what Chinua Achebe, the African writer, because I'm in the African soil, he said, until the lion learns how to write, the history will always glorify the hunter. End of quote. The narrative which African states should change is that we should tell the world that we have abundant resources. Rivers are just flowing into the oceans. The sun is rising and setting. Most of the months, Africa has got abundant sunlight. The wind. And these are natural resources which has got nothing to be interrupted. Because no matter how powerful you are, you cannot put a barrier on Malawi that Malawi shouldn't have sunlight. And no matter how powerful you are, you cannot put a barrier on Malawi not to have wind. So these are uninterrupted sources of energy, but we are not utilizing them. And time has come that we should invest in our education systems. Our children, African children, Africans were born talented, and we are born as engineers. So what we need is to do is that we put them in our curriculum so that we forget about some of these systems of education where we are learning about bisecting the frog, how many parts of a grasshopper, who discovered the river Niger, what is the biggest mountain in Africa. But we should go to real issues: technology, innovations, science. Then we are going to achieve this access to electricity. And it is just around the corner. 2030 is just around the corner. And days are moving very fast. So in order for us to achieve access to electricity, we need to hold hands, nations, on regional integration. But also, I would like to call upon ministers of finance and ministers of energy to work very closely so that we can find amicable solution. For example, lobbying with our national parliaments, even through the Pan-Africa or SADC Parliamentary Forum, so that, or ECOWAS, or East African Parliamentary Assembly, so that we can have a certain figure every year for these member states in the budget in order to develop our generation, so that when we have more power in Africa, we can trade into power with other countries.
Talking about regional integration and cooperation with other countries, how, as the Minister of Energy, how are you working hand in hand with other ministers in order to achieve one of these SDG goals of the UN, which is energy for all by 2030?
As I have said that when we are going to United Nations General Assembly, but also the COP, and the COP is just around the corner. In few days, people will be assembling in Dubai, COP 28. As Africa, we need to go with one voice, and one voice is collaboration, integration, so that when we are going to meet our counterparts, the carbon credit, we are not the polluters. Africa has never polluted. And then when we are talking about transition, energy transition, Africa is not yet there. And how can we transit when we are not yet on the way? What I can ask member states in Africa is that let's hold hands, let's move together, let's walk together. And there is a saying which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go with others. So that's why I'm saying that those member states which have got less of power, those who have got excess, they should take them along. Let's move together without leaving anybody behind. so that we can achieve energy for all, the access rate within our member states. So when we are going to these conferences, as Africa, we should have one voice. When we are meeting our counterparts, those who have industrialized their nations or their states, yet Africa, we are still behind. We are talking about smart agriculture. That smart agriculture alone cannot be achieved without energy. If you are talking about health, most of our young women and girls are spending a lot of time inhaling the salt because they spend most of the time using biomass. Time has come where girls should concentrate on school, not to spend most of the time looking for fuel wood. And then end results, they will have pulmonary diseases. And then we have unproductive citizens. We need to protect our girls. We need to protect our women. Our hospitals should have more power. We mustn't be worried when a woman goes to give birth, whether it is a president, a prime minister, an engineer, member of parliament, a counselor, a doctor, a professor, and then she doesn't come back from the theater because there is power intermittent, blackouts, load shedding. The children who are in the incubators, they need also to have that power. Just imagine losing all those children, those whom we're expecting that they will be presidents, they will be teachers, they'll be doctors, but they'll end up also, will end up losing their life because we don't have enough power. So energy is the driver of the economy. Without energy, things cannot move. So as African states, we need to learn what we have seen here in Morocco. First, the vision of the leadership, political will, and changing some of the laws and giving incentives when it comes to energy appliances.
Energy is a driver of the economy, as you said. Let's talk about the ongoing projects in Malawi. As you said, we have the Dangwa solar project in Malawi, which is financed by the International Finance Corporation, and it will be equipped with a 65 megawatts combined cycle power plant and battery storage system, which will enable East African country to reduce its dependence on imported electricity. Can you tell us about the future impact of this project on the people of Malawi?
Yes, thank you very much that you have highlighted the initiatives of the administration of His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Macarthur Chakwera by inviting the independent power producers. Yes, that project indeed, if it comes, and which I'm very sure very soon His Excellency will be commissioning, exactly the way he will be commissioning very soon the Serengeti solar power plant in Nkota, just Nkota and Duangwa, they're just closer to each other. So these are the green energy initiatives of the administration of His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Macarthur Chakwera. And once these green energy are injected into the national grid, then he will have access power, which the vision of His Excellency Dr. Russell Macarthur Chakwera is to have 1,000 megawatts by 2025. So with these independent power producers coming in, and he has opened up, the laws of Malawi are welcoming the independent power producers. The problem is that what you have mentioned about battery storage, who would want the companies which are coming as independent power producers? They should have battery storage because our battery base load is not enough to take most of the solar. So hence, we need the independent power producers, which have got battery storage, in order not to have fluctuations in the grid, because it also disturbs when there is a cloud, it goes down and it disturbs the system. However, we would want also to have a nation which can have, Malawi was industrialized in 1980s. Somewhere, we lost. We could assemble the radios. We had cannery. We were making fruits, tinned fruits. I wore even a shoe, farmer shoes, made by the skin from our country. We had a tannery in Malawi. So we were even making cigarettes. But today, the raw tobacco is being taken to America, to China, and the other parts of the world. But we were making cigarettes. Because we lost the power, then all industries were closed. So this is the time now. We have to change the narrative of our countries so that we can produce, and value addition can take place when we have enough power. So these are the initiatives which I would like to thank His Excellency and his administration, and the challenges which he have given my ministry in order to achieve his dream and his vision by inviting many of those independent power producers. Very soon, we'll be having geothermal, because whatever it is in Tanzania, it is also in Malawi. Whatever it is in Mozambique, it is in Malawi. Whatever is in Zambia, it is also in Malawi. We are on the Great Rift Valley.
His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Motola, thank you for honoring our invitation on Africa 24.
Thank you very much also for giving me this opportunity, sharing this platform, which I don't take it for granted, and the name which you're bearing, Africa 24, it's a great name for the continent, but also putting the continent on the world map. I don't take it for granted. May God bless you. May God bless Africa.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this edition of the interview on Africa 24. Stay tuned for more programs on our channel.